Paradigm Drift number 7. I'm Anastasia.
I'm Shiloh.
And this is the place where we search for the theories that are going to change the world.
The way this works, the way this always works, is that how many people signed up tonight? 40-something people signed up for the chance to present their ideas to the world. And the way it's going to work is we are going to randomly pull those names out of a hat. If we pull your name, you will have 60 seconds to present your idea. And if you go over that 60 seconds, you will hear the timer going off, which we should probably go and get the timer. It will be like beep, 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 beep. If you do not stop after maybe 15, 20 more seconds, you will hear a gong, which will end your presentation side of things, and we will interview you for, 5-10 minutes, depending on how much fun you are and what we have to unpack about your ideas. And that's how this is going to go.
Well, we have one more announcement, which is our panelist.
Well, how could we possibly forget our panelist? We have our dear friend, Michael Hughes, to join us. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you so much for having me here. I'm excited to be here and hear everyone's ideas. My webcam is heating up a second, so lighting will return to normal.
It's very dramatic.
All right, well, I think that a good way to kick things off is generally to bring somebody who's come on before, and that person tonight is our friend Brendan. Brendan showed up last time. He had what was his theory? That he invented his own religion, right?
Yeah.
So Brendan's going to present another minute at this point, and we will kick back. Maybe I'll kick up some jams while we get Brendan into the room.
Welcome back, Brendan. We're happy to see you. You have...
Happy to see you too. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, of course. You have 60 seconds on the clock, so let's roll it when you're ready.
Last month, I discussed how I made up my own religion/philosophy in which I assert that existence is good and optionally use the existence of a deistic, hypothetical deistic creator god as a scaffold for that value. And the way you practice the philosophy is basically to try to see good in whatever you're experiencing. This week, in order to avoid talking about the exact same thing over again, I thought I'd discuss how one can exert some degree of control over one's emotional life. And that's the primary way I practice my philosophy. The main way is to explicitly pay attention to one's values and one's thoughts about them. One can also invent psychological games to play with oneself in order to develop good emotional habits. And I use a psychological model that emotions come from values and perceived events related to those values. And that was what I was going to say in the first minute.
Yeah,
Okay,
all right,
done.
there it is. Guys, give him a hand. Come on.
right.
Give him a hand. Come
Excellent,
on.
Brendan.
Guys, come on.
Thank you.
There it is. There it is.
All right.
All right.
I have thoughts, but I feel like I talk more than anybody in that.
Yeah, take it away. I want to know more about this method. Yeah.
I know. Michael, would you want to kick us off?
I would love to. I love that you're back here, Brendan. And something that I think is potentially fun that you said is using psych games to help as part of your practice. And I was wondering what some of these were and what they looked like for you.
Okay. I just had a brain fart. They're inspired by the book Pollyanna. I don't know if you've read it or not. It's actually a children's book. It's about a little girl, and her dad teaches her a game called the Glad Game. And the very first example in the book is she's really poor, and so she gets gifts from charity, and she randomly got a pair of crutches from charity, and she was disappointed because she didn't need them. And the dad said, well, you can be glad at least that you don't need them. And then there are probably hundreds of examples in the book where they reframe things in order to be glad about them when they otherwise wouldn't be. And I realized later, I did practice that for a while, but I realized later I could make up more games. Like once I realized I was feeling envious a lot. So I noticed whenever I was doing that, I would make myself look at the person, like often in a YouTube video that I was envious of, and point out to myself all the different ways that that person was better than me, or at least that I thought they were. And after doing that for a few weeks, I noticed I became a lot less envious than I was before, or the feeling popped up less. So I guess that's kind of a negative reinforcement, making myself do everything that I wouldn't be doing if I had the didn't have. I'm
So you
stumbling
were
over what I'm
like, it
saying.
was something like by sort of experiencing that, by expressing it, it went away. Is that what you're saying?
No, it's more like I didn't want to feel envious. I thought it was an ugly emotion.
Yeah.
So whenever I felt it, I made myself go look at what the thing that made me feel envious.
And then you didn't
I think
feel
that's really
envious.
cool.
What?
And then you didn't feel envious? So you would, for instance,
Oh
go
yeah,
watch
yeah.
them do
A
something.
common thing that happens when I do this is I actually change the way my emotional life. I feel envy a lot less often now than I did after I did that. It took like a few days or a few weeks or something.
Wait, I still don't, I'm sorry. I feel really dense and stupid. Forgive me, please, Brendan. But so you feel envy about, say, like some YouTuber because they're, I don't know, reaching a lot of people or something. Is that
Yeah,
it?
like I wish I were popular and
Yeah.
I'm not.
And
And
then
they're
so
popular.
then you go and watch that YouTuber and you feel less envious, or do you go watch?
No, I point out to myself all the different ways that they're better than me, and like I look at what they're doing and say, "Oh, that's a cool thing."
like how they're getting after it harder than you, or something like that.
Yeah, like I'm thinking to myself, "Oh, he's such a talented musician. Oh, he's so funny," or whatever.
And so instead of just being like, oh, I wish that I could have that, you reframe it in the sense of this person has this thing because they have a quality that deserves it.
Yeah, well, probably both. I've never talked to anyone about this before, so I guess it makes sense to me, but I don't. I don't know how other people
I
do
feel
it.
like I experienced something similar when in my science career. When I first started to read papers, I got so excited, but when someone started talking about something that I wanted to like write about myself, I would get really like want to back away from the paper, right? They're like doing that thing I really wanted to do or talk about. And so I spent like years doing a kind of some version of the game that you described where I just forced myself to expose and to see the greatness and the brilliance in what they're writing. And I didn't have to be the person communicating that. And this was cool because it turned into like my recent water paper of just like being able to take in what other people's brilliance were. But I was kind of wondering if you ever think that this maybe like betrayed you. Has this ever like turned out in a strange way or backfired in a way of trying to like see
Oh
goodness
yeah,
in things?
that's exactly the next thing I wanted to talk about. The first time the first thing I did after I came up with my psychological model that like values drive your emotions, I realized I'd been getting hangry a lot, like grumpy when you get hungry. And I thought to myself, well, if I'm being grumpy with people when I'm hungry, that means I care more about the comfort of my gut than I do my relationship with those people. And that was really humiliating to me. So the next several times I got hangry, the thought returned to me and I felt humiliated and it made the anger go away or the grumpiness. And I noticed quite by accident that my emotional reaction to basically all kinds of minor pains basically was gone after that. Like I didn't emotionally react to being tired or stubbing my toe or things like that when I would have before. And I did notice sometime later I was doing manual labor, and because I wasn't emotionally reacting to being exhausted and hurting myself, I just kept working and working, and I messed up some of my joints. They're still not quite the same. So I had to learn to uh, take care of my health in a more deliberate manner than I had previously. Whereas, like earlier, if I was like feeling uncomfortable somehow, I'd react emotionally and be like, "Fuck that shit," and quit. But
I guess my question is, this reads a lot like a personal philosophy.
yes, well, I'm not a cult leader, so I've never tried this on anyone else. Actually, I did try to share some of my thoughts with an ex-girlfriend once, and I think I made her worse. So I guess I don't know that everything that works for me will translate to other people.
Interesting. Why did it make her worse? What happened?
I'm not a professional psychologist, but my best guess is what I considered to be crazy behavior was coming from insecurity, and I tried to teach her about humility as I understood it, but I don't think it came across the way I wanted, and it just made her more insecure, and that's more crazy.
Hey, dude, I don't know. Forgive me if I asked you last time, but where are you physically in the world right now?
Kansas.
Kansas. Yeah, I just want to know more about you. Like, who are you? What do you do for a living?
I have a bachelor's in engineering, but I wasn't able to get an entry-level job for like 7 years after I graduated. So
Damn.
I taught English overseas in Russia and China,
Whoa.
and I also worked in warehouses, which is where I busted up my joints.
Wow, that's crazy. Why is it so hard to get an engineering job? You have to have an advanced degree, or there just aren't jobs, or what? Mechanical
My
engineering?
understanding is there's actually been a surplus of engineering jobs for a while. Like I saw some stats that like a third of new engineering graduates fill 90% of the new engineering jobs. That was a few years ago, though. And like another third go into other high-paying professions, like accounting or sales or whatever, or management. And then another third gets stuck in not high-paying jobs like retail. And I'm of the opinion that the universities and corporations lie on purpose, because if they told the truth, fewer people would go to university and fewer people would get engineering degrees. But having a surplus means more money for the universities and suppressed wages for the corporations. I guess that's a bit conspiratorial, but that's my opinion.
That's
I did.
What? Nothing wrong with conspiracies, first of all. Some of the greatest achievements in all of human history have been conspiracies.
I feel like we're
I did
conspiracy
send thousands
connoisseurs.
of resumes, and for a while I never got a sign that a human being had even looked at it. And I had like people, I forget what they're called, but I had people look at my resume and try to help me. And one of them told me to undo what the other one did. And then one of them said that there's just no job market for new engineers. Like they only want engineers with experience.
Where do you see yourself like 10 years from now? Do you want to be engineering?
Oh, I have no idea. I'm not doing what I wanted to do. I wanted to be something more on the electrical side, but I'm working as a mechanical engineer right now. So basically, I'm just going to be doing whatever I'm able to do.
So do you think that your engineering background influenced how you think about your personal philosophy that you're sharing with us?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Does this like change you from your peers? Like, do you think this is your?
Well, I was always a bit weird, but
this is like a systems approach, right?
Yeah, it's a systems approach to myself.
I love it.
I think that this is really useful. I mean, it's hard to parse exactly the ways in which it plays out, but I'm a big fan of internal reimaginings of our immediate responses. Right? Because I think that the worst thing
I like the reframing a lot too. I think that that's super, super useful to everybody.
Yeah, and especially like with emotions like envy or humiliation or whatever else, if you cycle on the fact that you're feeling the emotion, I think that it prevents you from being able to actually look at the world and say, okay, well, there's these things that I can go and get from the world.
And envy is so adjacent to inspiration too, right? Mm-hmm. Like you can easily flip that and just be like driven by somebody else's success too.
Mm-hmm.
It's not as much of a zero-sum universe as people try to make it out to be, I think is what it comes down to with that one.
I think that's probably true. But hey, Brendan, we're gonna let you go for now. But this is an interesting conversation, and I hope that we see you again.
Absolutely.
And
Okay.
Are you writing about this anywhere? Are you like trying to put it out into the world?
I've written a lot. I've written books before, but I don't even think one other person read them.
Well, books
You've
are hard.
written books,
You have to start. You have to start with smaller.
Where do people find your books at?
That's true. Fine.
Actually, well, I have a YouTube channel, Brendan Gollage, and I think I have a URL to my book. I wrote it a few years ago. I'm more confident in the first part of the book than the latter part. The first part's going to cover some of the same stuff I just talked about this time. I did make a new YouTube channel recently called Jesus as Psychologist, where I interpret Jesus' parables in a psychological sense rather than a supernatural sense.
That's pretty rad.
It makes sense to me.
That's something we should
It's basically a dead YouTube channel, though. Like I made like 8 shorts, and it got very few views, so I just gave up on it.
Oh man!
All right, maybe next time we get some Jesus as Psychologist stuff. That sounds really, really interesting.
Oh, you could just watch the YouTube videos if you want. They're all shorts.
Nah. It's more fun to have you present it here.
Yeah. All right, man. Thank you for coming. It was good to see you again.
Yeah, for sure.
Jesus as Psychologist, everybody. Check it out.
Okay,
all right, we'll see you next time.
Thank you. Bye, Brendan. Give him a hand, guys. Come on. Come on. Come on.
synths are getting spookier and spookier. I like this, which is perfect for Abby. Abby, welcome. You got 60 seconds on the clock. Are you ready?
Let's go.
All right, let's do it.
All right. Death physics. Fear of death is the hidden variable behind humanity's failure to traverse the cosmos. Our outer world is a projection of our inner one, both individually and collectively. The barrier to space isn't technology, it's consciousness. It's the weight of our fear that keeps us tethered to Earth. So forget about the sound barrier. Mastery of the fear of death is escape velocity. Death is the 0 point, the formless field of limitless potential and boundless energy. William Shatner, aboard a capsule with others, describes space as death in its most terrifying form. But Michael Collins, the most isolated man in history, felt awareness, satisfaction, and expectation. Those who dare to cross the abyss don't find the end. They're reborn. The moment we stop fearing the void, we become stars.
Damn, exactly 60 seconds. Guys, come on, give Abby a hand. Guys, come on. Abby, welcome.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Hi. Happy to be here.
This is something I've been thinking about a lot lately, actually. Well, not exactly on the physics side of things, but I think that it's true that for most of human history, people didn't fear death the same way we do in modernity. I've just been thinking about how the way that people integrated themselves into the natural cosmos in the past seemed like they didn't see themselves necessarily as like separate from the cosmos as much. Like they had a more I don't know. Anyways, I'm just rambling.
I think you're right. Well, so the thing that I'm thinking about as you're saying that is if you have a cosmology that says that you can die, and then there's either an opportunity for redemption, or maybe something good even happens to you, is very different for cosmology. Or you try again. Is very different for cosmology that's like, you're gonna burn eternally.
Or like there's a heat death of the universe coming. Yeah. Like it's all kind of for naught. Michael, what do you think, man?
So Abby, thank you so much for sharing this. It's really curious that you mentioned this, and specifically, I think the astronauts of America, Michael Collins, in this intake. So my awareness of like the Egyptian Book of the Dead or the Tibetan Book of the Dead is it is talking about kind of like how to live a life where you can die, right? And what this process is like. And this is something that I don't think that we necessarily get in our Western education a lot. So I'm curious how you came across these ideas and how you think like our modern Western, you mentioned an American astronaut, like what is our modern retelling or understanding of these concepts?
I guess just sort of through my own explorations, I had a near-death experience when I was about 19. So that probably opened some doorways. And then just,
Well, hold on. You got to tell us about that. You can't just, I once had a near-death experience. What happened?
Yeah. So there were some, questionable things involved. It was a very traumatic experience. And what I like to say is it doesn't really matter so much if the near-death experiences are real or not. It's kind of what you do with that. So, and I think it's I think there's a governor band on human suffering. And so at some point it's, I see people as a nurse for 20 years, I've worked with people in like persistent vegetative states or just seriously traumatic events. And what you see is like this sort of a separation of the psyche from the body. And that's, you kind of want to pop out of there. And you can see that across the spectrum. And I think that's a huge driver behind like sort of like the UAP phenomenon, the psychedelic renaissance, all these things. We have sort of a collective desire to transcend our suffering. And so, yeah, and like reading the Tibetan Book of the Dead and, the Egyptian Books of the Dead and all these different things. But it was really sort of through experiential practices and knowledge that it sort of really became apparent, which is what I really think. I don't think we necessarily need more like typical psychology and like therapy and stuff. I think we need experiential practice. And specifically, I do think that the space sector and astronauts definitely need to train for this. I know like Edgar Mitchell, like when you can sort of expand your consciousness and have the experience of being the other, or the collective consciousness. Edgar Mitchell, had the experience of being an elephant in the Sahara when he's out on, like in space and trying to do things. So I think that really doing some death training would be super beneficial on an individual level for each person, because if you can master your fear, you're basically unstoppable. And then on a collective level too, I think we're very, very tied to the womb and the Mother Earth. And so it sort of stops our expansion. So
What does death training look like?
So my first workshop is the Death Barbie's Dream House. And basically it's walking you through sort of a practice. So, every day the sun sets and we just know that there's another day coming. And if you can, and each breath, each moment dies into the next, and each breath is an inhale and exhale. And when we're in those cyclical rhythms, it fractals out. Do you know what I mean? Like your one breath and your one life, and then your, an entire civilization and existence. And so when we have that knowing that there is something else, that alleviates a lot of fear. And then you have your perception of an event. When the way that you look at something changes, it changes the thing itself. And so to sort of learn tools to master your perception and tell a different story is incredibly useful. So I have some practices and exercises for that. And then lucid dream training, and just dream training. I find it to be one of the most effective tools to really understand this, because when we're speaking about things like death and dreams and deep space, these aren't like tangible physical things that we know. So we have to speak the language of dreams and the language of the subconscious, and you do that through practice. So, like practices like, and lucid dreaming is like kind of a direct parallel to death and, to the void, so the abyss. So when you practice that, then you get a deep, like felt sense of knowing how to navigate these things. And it also helps with tools to like navigate those liminal spaces and the abyss, because we don't have north and south and actual gravity and things like that to navigate us. It's more sort of thought forms and emotions and things like that are our, North Stars. So giving some practices like that. And then I also have like an immersive experience. It's the overview effect experience, because this is exactly kind of where the space stuff comes from, and death. When astronauts are going into space, they're literally having an out of body experience. So they're out of the body of, like Mother Earth, and you have that bird's eye, almost God level view where you can kind of see the connectedness of everything. So to give people that maybe aren't billionaires and can't hop on, a Blue Origin flight, that experience of, sort of connectedness and maybe a little life review, I think is super cool.
Yeah, a trip to the desert, night sky might be the closest you can get to space, I suppose, for most people.
I do not think dark skies need to be saved at all costs. I'm in Taos right now, and as soon as we're done here, I'm going right out to look at the stars.
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
Michael, what do you think?
I really enjoy everything about this and the ideas that you share. You mentioned these American astronauts and these strange experiences they had, and there's something seemingly tied to the physicality of leaving the Earth that these astronauts share strange stories when they leave. I'm kind of curious what you think that the moon represents, because these are astronauts who are going to the moon and having a strange experience of seeing dead relatives in space, right? What do you
Wait,
think
hold
that
on a
is?
second. They're seeing dead relatives in space?
Am I right on that? Abby, do you know about that?
I think they do have experiences like that. I know, like the story I know about, Edgar Mitchell having the experience of actually he didn't see an elephant in the Sahara. He had the experience of being an elephant in the Sahara, which is something that you encounter in a life review. You have the experience of being the other. This is my kind of like one thing with Federico Fagin's thing. He said like in Qualia that you can't experience what it's like to be an other. And I think that you can when you have this sort of expanded experience. So yeah, like in the life review, you have that experience of being the other. And this is something that also happens with people like near their actual like physical death, when people are, kind of seeing beyond the veil and talking to their deceased loved ones and things like that. I think it's all just sort of if you accept that the all is mind and things are thought forms, these are how these things, like we get into deeper densities, these are how they manifest into our reality.
I feel like, so you said you're a nurse. Have you been around a lot of death?
Yeah. So yeah, for 20 years, I've been around a lot of death, and I also have shared death experiences with people. And it's not like, we're going to the pearly gates together. It's sort of like just a sense of how they're navigating it. I think of it as like, you can get a flight pass or a gate pass to go with your family and like help them board the plane. It's kind of like that.
That's crazy.
And I think it's just kind of like sort of an expanded sense of empathy, maybe, where you're just a little bit more permeable, a little bit more sensitive and aware of the experience of those around you.
Interesting. So yeah, it sounds like this whole time you've been talking, it feels like you're speaking from too much experience for somebody who's still alive to be bringing to the table.
Well, I mean, maybe I haven't always been. Do you know what I mean? I think like that's kind of one of my shirts. It says, "Now I'm become death, the destroyer of worlds," which is, it was like the Barbie and the Oppenheimer movie that came out together. And it was Oppenheimer kind of paraphrasing the Bhagavad Gita. And then when you really sort of dive deep into the meaning of what that is, it's super interesting. And I think that sort of when we kind of become like, I tell people, like I stayed in the abyss. I had a pretty miserable existence for the first 40 years of my life. And so I stayed in the abyss long enough to absorb all of it, like all of the light. And so now I just come out and try to shine that. But it's kind of like being the beast when you become the thing that you hate and sort of experience the other, and you become the thing that you're afraid of, then it's not really that scary. And when you can sort of let something die, then you can reshape it. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think that there's a lot here. I think it's cool work that you're doing. I know that where are you doing this Death Barbie's Playhouse?
So it's next week on October 22nd is online. You can go to like my Instagram's probably the easiest thing, at the Death Dojo on Instagram. And then there's like the link in bio and all those things, but I kind of put it everywhere. So that'll be online on October 22nd. And then I'm doing it in person in Boulder, Denver area the week after that. Yeah, and then going from there.
Super cool. All right, next time you should come tell us about the chicken eggs and the silica.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Abby's one of my favorite Twitter accounts, so we'll have to do it next time.
Okay.
All right, guys, give Abby a hand. Thanks, Abby.
Thank you so much. It was really good to meet you.
Good to meet you. Come on, guys, give her a hand.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting.
See you next time.
That was
All right, you got 60 seconds on the clock. Hit it.
All right. There's a newly discovered sensory organ in the animal kingdom that has more touch receptors than the skin on your palm. And it's the most advanced neural receptors, and it's directly linked to the limbic system and the hypothalamus. And we've been cutting it off for about 4,000 years. And the current epigenetic science shows that you can induce emotional limbic trauma and disrupt the oxytocin pathways, regulate trust, safety, perception, emotional attachment. And these biological disruptions in the individual, it only takes 3 generations for it to grow into an entire population that have behavioral effects.
All right.
There it is, right? 60 seconds. Guys, give him a hand. Come on. Welcome back. Welcome back.
Welcome back, Ricky.
Ricky Cisco.
So, are we allowed to ask if Ricky is circumcised or not? Or is that beyond the pale of this discussion?
Yeah. Everybody, pull him out. Let's go. No.
No, but that'll get us
Let's not
taken
do
off
that. Let's
YouTube
not do that.
immediately.
I don't know what I'm missing out on.
Oh, man.
It's so funny.
I call it the elephant trunk in the room. Sorry. Okay.
Oh.
Ah,
All right, so this all stemmed from you started when you first started doing this show. You were working on behavioral sync models. Circumcision. I have a hard time saying that. But circumcision is some sort of it's an example of that you brought up last time, and that was rather exciting. And now you're saying
we were underhandedly insulted by somebody who was going to come and present a plasma ball of some sort. And he was like, I'm not going to come have fun with your foreskin theories. And I was like, I don't think Ricky's going to do another foreskin theory.
So are you like building out the mechanism though?
So it's big. So the epigenetic cycles, especially when you get into Michael Levin's work and you realize how fast these disruptions can change just on trauma. What people don't realize, and what I didn't realize, is that the foreskin is about the area of your hand, and it's the most advanced, like, information sensors we have. It's crazy. I had no. It's literally a sense organ. It's a sense organ.
Oh yeah.
And listen, and because it's rooted in bonding and erotic. It's very primal. It regulates our. It's like if someone cut off your lips and you could never kiss.
Really?
Feel that sensation.
Why do you think that? Why do you think that it's so important? I mean,
because it literally is. It is those cells. It is that thing. It is that sense organ.
Like if you do a homunculus, it has just as many nerve endings as the lips. Is that what you're arguing?
So it has way more.
Oh no!
So it's like 4 times. It's 4 times bigger surface area than the lips, because you think it's just a little like extra something, and then no, it's literally
it's like a foot long. Maybe that's why they're trying to.
Well, think about this. So think about like the part of your brain that's connected to your tongue, right? That's important. I mean, that's how much of life is that, right? So when you sever the piece of the sense organ that has the most advanced tissue that's around the most androgynous, it's like the most important part of animals is the reproductive parts, right? Everything evolves around that. And when that disrupts the brain, I believe that you get behavioral patterns that usually get circulated into religion. And what happens is you can see how it plays out over time. And that's like kind of, that's like the spicy part where you get into the comparisons of what makes cultures different. What's the biological basis for that? It doesn't apply to everyone, obviously, but it hit, it's the mean. But listen, here's the
No, I'm not laughing at you. Somebody in the chat was like, a friend wanted to sell me a wallet made from foreskin for $300. And I said, why so much? And he said, if you rub it, it becomes a suitcase.
Wait, I got a question though. I was thinking about this afterwards. I guess I could have just looked this up. Why? All right. So why is it that when I was a kid, most Americans were getting circumcised, even though it's not traditionally associated with any religion, like in the Protestant roots of the 1950s, like when our generation was rooted?
Well, so first, let me answer why I think it started happening, and I think part of it is the girl part looks masculine, and they think that when it's like a gender purification ritual, and the foreskin, is kind of looks like an opening, and anything that applies to the reasons they did female circumcision applies to the males. It's gender purification to control sexual drives, but it actually does the opposite. Everything it claims to do, it does the opposite. And so what happens is when let's say they cut it off on a girl and they say, oh, it's getting rid of the masculine part so she can be fully feminine, or the circumcision, it look as the feminine. And what happens is I think it doubles down behaviorally with shadow animus anima projection, where you have a repressed masculinity that then comes out on a large scale societally into certain behavioral patterns, certain gender dynamics, the way you relate to the opposite gender, the way it's rooted in all of that. And what I think is we forget why we do things initially, and eventually we make up reasons. And it became a fad in America with Christian doctors who got swept up into Zionism.
Really?
There was like a popularity, totally. It's a lot of it was,
because when it was always argued about like as a health thing, right? They're like, it's hygienic or something. Like that's what I was told when I was a kid.
Well, the Christians were pushing it, trying to use science, but it was based in like.
Wait, why were the Christians Zionists? Are they just trying to like why?
Well, so they were trying to.
They listened to a lot of Birmingham.
They're trying to take biblical practices and say that they were advanced scientific things about hygiene, sort of, like how you justify certain laws, like, oh, don't eat shellfish, it's because it might get you sick. And I think that they're trying to say circumcision it's clean. It actually is cleaner.
Yeah, but the Christians don't. The Christians eat shellfish, right? The Protestants don't care about shellfish. Why would they care about?
Mean the way they.
Why would they care about circumcision?
The way they try to justify, circumcision. Because it's a commandment in the Bible, even though in the New Testament you don't do it. Like it's like it doesn't matter. Like what is it? Actually, in the Gospel of Thomas, the Apocrypha, he literally says, if you were born without one, then don't have one. If you're born with one, then it's not you. Then you should be born with one. So to speak. So it was completely nullified. Once the New Testament, the Christian movement started, and then it has a resurgence in the 1900s when American culture started to mix with the Jewish population, and there was a lot of like throwback to like romanticizing the ancient Israelites.
Is this after World War II, perhaps? Is this after World War II? Because I mean, I think there was like a lot of obviously after the Nazis, that whole fucking thing. Like there was probably a lot more integration. I'm just guessing. I'm not a historian or anything, but
and there was when America started to really push in a lot of moral laws with what you can do with a baby, a bodily autonomy. It was important to Jews to protect their custom, and so a lot of what got pushed in science was sort of fraudulent data about its benefits, and sort of like, I'm sure there are some true believers, but I think a lot of it was propaganda to protect their practice from being banned. I think it was just that straightforward. It was just like, hey, this is our covenant. They take it seriously, and they don't want it to get banned. And it's kind of like,
I'm just still like trying to understand how like a white Protestant nation in the 1950s, which is probably the dominant culture.
Kellogg was like, you have to circumcise because it's going to stop all the boys from masturbating themselves into the ground. Like this.
This is their. I mean, you got to remember that like Christian. There's a whole. You would be blown away by how many Christians believe that we are fulfilling biblical prophecies right now.
Oh, I've heard.
Like Old Testament stuff.
Old Testament
like
stuff?
we're being ruled by people.
That's what this is all about. There's nothing about circumcision.
The military. Yeah. So what I mean though is that the relationship to circumcision with Christians is rooted in people who believe in prophecy. So it was getting into Protestants have always been Zionists. They've always had like a relationship with like Israel and the Old Testament. They're very Old Testament. Protestants are very Old Testament, and then you have other denominations that are way more New Testament, and Catholics, stuff like that. So and then it got popularized in the medical institutions because they could charge for it. The tissue is so valuable. I mean, you can a sample's worth tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like, it's no joke how much these are worth. Like, once they're used in their respective thing, they can be super valuable.
I got some back pay coming to me.
So in a nutshell, my idea is that I think we have to ban it in the West. I think we have to, because I think we have to study what the actual epigenetic effects are, because I do think if you traumatize a sensory organ, right, that's directly hooked to the bonding, the everything system, the emotional regulation, stress, bonding. I think when you sever tissue like that and you disrupt a certain part of the brain that's not doing what it was originally there for, and then there's the symbolism on top of it. I think it affects within very quickly. Like, I think we're 4 generations in America with circumcision, 3 to 4, and I think it's been done for about 200. And I think the stark divide of culture, I believe, is rooted in the foreskin.
That much is clear. Michael, what do you got? Ricky, good Lord, we're gonna have to. This isn't over. Michael, what do you got, man?
Yeah. So this is first of all very fun, despite the horror of it all. But,
what I love the most is that in the chat, there's people legitimately trying to carry on a conversation about the photon.
Very important stuff.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So I think what you're chatting about with these relationships between like Zionist movements and these different philosophies playing with each other through our history is actually very important. But I am a biochemist, so I'm really curious about the epigenetic side of how this like trauma gets ingrained into our DNA. And so I'm curious, what are some of the things that the data that you come across that you're citing or invoking in that, and if there's other kinds of traumas involved in humanity that also affect our epigenetics that you think are like similar to this?
So I've always been a Lamarckian. When I first was learning about evolution as a kid, it seemed the book said Lamarckianism was debunked, and I was like, it seems pretty straightforward, and it seems obvious to me that males we produce a ton of sperm, and women produce eggs all at once. So we're constantly, I believe, males are designed to epigenetically adapt super fast to our environment. So I moved to the North Pole. I think my kid will start adapting to the cold in 1 generation if I'm exposed to the cold long enough. I believe it's that fast. And so because males are constantly updating our genetic code depending on our circumstances, I believe the epigenetic pathways are super fast in males, whereas women are more like placeholders. They're born with all their eggs. They are not going to be as susceptible to the epigenetic environmental factors. They're sort of like, hey, this is what works. And guys are like, we got to do this now and adapt. So I think circumcision is probably the most, I think it's huge. I think I'm not even able to say, because it's the oldest ritual that's continually been done every generation for as long as we really have recorded history in a distinct region and population. That's crazy. And I think that because for some reason, the male part, it's minimized easily, but I think it's because we don't know what we don't know. We're born without it. I don't know what I'm missing. You know what I mean? I'm like, I don't know. But I think that there's these effects that start to compound at scale, and I think everything's affected by epigenetics, but I think this is one of those particular things that is just a part of the human story. It's
So I want to see I want to see you push your ideas farther because it is really curious all the ideas that you invoke and how you blend them together. And what you're talking about reminds me of a chapter that I had in my biochemistry of human disease class, where it actually looks at there's a ton of epigenetic information about the Jews going through the Holocaust and the epigenetic prints that
that's really
has,
good.
right, similar to their peers and contemporaries, and what that stress kind of imprints and how that carries through generations, because we have excellent data for that, right? And so I'm curious if, there's ways to compare the footprint of circumcision to, some other really well categorized epigenetic markers that we have for this and history with that.
We gotta save this for next time.
Yeah, let's Ricky. It's just ain't over yet.
Wait, this is gonna
I want to know
like,
is the foreskin connected? Maybe the foreskin's making us stupid though, because aren't like the Jews some of the higher IQ scoring populations? Maybe
I didn't want to be the one to say it.
Maybe we should all just cut more and more pieces of our genitalia off.
If we're not careful, this is gonna turn into like foreskin drift, and I'm not sure.
All right, let's keep it rolling. Let's keep it rolling. Ricky, we love you, man.
Oh, good. Thank you, guys. Love you.
We come back next time.
Guys, give Ricky a hand. Come on. If I can find the audience. Audience, where are you? Come on, there you are. All right.
Your 60 seconds, Jock. The Jock will reign among the nerds. Hit us with it.
Thanks very much, guys. Hello there. So I am proposing an alternative theory of stellar evolution and planetary formation founded upon the Robitaille liquid sun model. My theory outlines a logical solution to internal stellar structure and life cycle to explain many of the phenomena that we observe, and leads us to rationally conclude that all planets are stellar remnants. The theory draws from the disciplines of material physics, hydrostatics, gravitation, and more to explain stellar evolution processes and how they might culminate in a rocky, Earth-like world. This theory could have far-reaching consequences for cosmology and astrophysics. Thank you.
All right.
All right.
Didn't even need the full 60
What
seconds.
do we end up with? 50 seconds. All right. A 50-second run at it. Welcome to the show, Jock.
Thank you.
That sounded like a preview for a theory more than a theory. But I'm also, my brain is quite tired at this point, so maybe I missed something.
Well, you got 2 more to go. I just asked the chat if we should do 1 or 2, and everybody said 2.
Don't we have another invited?
We do, another invited.
All right. Yeah, so Jock, what is your theory of stellar... let's start with planetary formation. Where the hell do planets come from?
Well, that really... I probably should end with that, because I have to. All
right, where do stars come from?
Well, we know that stars are hydrogen and culminate as a result of the condensation and eventual gravitation of the atoms.
I'll buy that.
This is why I mentioned hydrostatics in my introduction, is that atoms, when subjected to extreme pressure, will transition through phases of structure. So we go from gas to liquid and eventually to solid. And Robitaille points this out in his work, that he focuses on the liquid surface of the sun, which is the most obvious evidence to support his hypothesis. But he does touch upon the fact or the idea, and I agree with this, that the atoms will eventually transition to the solid. So my position is that the interior of the sun is effectively a solid, a crystalline solid. So the vast majority of the sun's mass is as solid as a steel ball. And
would you say as solid as the Earth?
I would say it's as solid as the Earth in that initial solid strata, but as the pressure, of course, is increasing as you go deeper, it will go profoundly beyond what we know as solid rock. And so it really is a transitional stratification. And where my theory goes, it leads us through how over time, the mass of the star is constantly shrinking and therefore losing mass. So what's also happening is the pressure is reducing on the interior of the star. So that solid mass on the interior, which is only solid because of the pressure that it's under, begins to relax and swell. And this is why we get the red giant phase. And during this phase, what then happens is, because the interior is relaxing, now what's going on outside of the solid interior, the exterior is an ocean of metallic liquid hydrogen, as Robitaille points out. So there's a transition between these two layers, between the liquid ocean and the solid interior. And this, of course, you've got an ocean experiencing solid body rotation on the outside of this solid interior. That creates friction, and friction creates heat. There's also the incredible pressure at this depth. Therefore, you get the breakdown of atoms, which then leads to fusion, which then leads to heavier elements.
Okay. Where do the planets pop out?
So these heavier elements have built up in this transition zone between the solid. They're basically trapped between the liquid ocean and the solid interior. Now, as the interior relaxes, these heavier elements, being more massive than the hydrogen, solid hydrogen below, start to penetrate into the core. So eventually, over a great period of time, and this is the red dwarf phase of stellar evolution, these heavier elements are penetrating into the star, causing the violence that we see on the surface of red dwarfs, the turbulence. And so there's lots of reactions going on there. Eventually, as the red dwarf ages, the heavier elements have a mass to create a core in the star of heavy elements. So and then, of course, what we do is the red dwarf transitions from a red dwarf as entropy dictates to a brown dwarf. Now that brown dwarf,
well, which basically nobody thinks that, though. Just to be fair,
this is okay.
I could see it, but I'm just saying, like, just to be clear.
Wait, hold on a second. Is that not an applicable statement for literally every single theory that's been?
Oh, no. Everything he's been saying right now is like, there are these transitions, there are fusion changes.
Okay.
I mean, I'm also, he's referencing Pierre's canon to some extent right now. I know that Pierre probably doesn't think what he's about to say with this brown dwarf thing, because Pierre talks about this white dwarf transition at this point. I'm just trying to keep it on track here. Plus, I'm dying to know where the planets come from.
Okay, well, I'll get there. But actually, you make a very good point about white dwarfs, because in my model, I've laid out this evolution on a graphic, and I can share the graphic with you. But to my mind, the red giant has two optional outcomes. It can shrink, but it can either, during this heavy element penetration of the core and amassing in the center, it can happen gradually or it can happen violently. If it happens violently, we get the throw off of the exterior strata, which throws off the ocean and the atmosphere out in space and develops our planetary nebula and leaves behind the heavy element core, which is glowing hot and is your white dwarf.
Okay.
So we find a white dwarf at the center of a planetary nebula. Eventually, of course, that white dwarf cools and it can become a brown dwarf, and it will wander out of the nebula and wander in space. And the point here about the brown dwarf is it's a hugely smaller mass than the original star. So it loses its gravitational relationship with the rest of the galaxy and therefore drifts from its traditional position. Eventually, a new star comes along, a young star, and captures that brown dwarf in its orbit.
Okay, so planets are the cores of dead stars.
Correct.
I see. Okay, it's Oparin from the night. Oparin first wrote about this, and then this dude Jeffrey Walensky's got a YouTube channel devoted to this idea too.
Isn't there Anthony Abruzzo?
Anthony Abruzzo at NYU wrote a series of master's theses about this idea
and then just
too.
Vanished.
And then just disappeared off the face of the earth.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's a really interesting idea. It's actually my favorite idea about the origins of planets.
I think you have a hair. I'm sorry. I think that, Jack, you should come back. But I think that what you should do is you should give people a frame for what the conventional theories are. Because there's people in the chat that are like, I don't know what the theory of star formation is, and so I don't know how it's bad or why it's bad or how I should feel about this new alternative theory, because I think that we here do have some...
It's also too big, Jock. Like, you could have, if you wanted to tell us your theory about where fusion happens in the stars, that's enough for a minute. You kind of wasted your minute because you didn't tell us anything in the minute. Like, you didn't tell us any particular thing. You know, like I knew you were gonna talk about something interesting, but I knew it was gonna take like 15 minutes to get to that. And you have to find a way next time to like put one little element of that in the minute. Like, you could have told me, you could have started with, I think planets are the cores of dead stars, and I would have been like, whoa, all right, let's go. Right? So you gotta, I think that I'd love to see you come back and take one piece of this, because that's kind of the whole point of this show, is to distill stuff.
I kind of focused on your own suggestion, the 3 points that you asked for, which was, what does your theory suggest? What does it resolve? And what consequences is that? So I changed, because my original introduction did have that detail, but I kind of changed it to suit what you'd said in your own webpage.
Maybe it's our fault, so maybe we forgot to mention that you have to actually tell us the theory also.
And 1 minute's not a long time, you know?
I don't know, Jock. I love that your mind's working on this stuff. I think there's a lot of really cool stuff to be developed in the wake of realizing that stars are condensed matter. I'd love to see you come back and develop this a bit more. And do you have a website or anything where you're developing this?
I don't, but I'm working with Patrick Van Rees at the moment.
Oh, are you really?
Never heard of him.
I am, to engage a peer review.
Patrick's just like, how can he say that?
That's cool.
Yeah, so Patrick's going to work on a peer review with me,
nice.
And we're hopefully going to publish that on Zenodo either today or tomorrow.
Wow, super cool. We're doing another podcast, Patrick, next Saturday. Yeah, we're gonna get deep with him about his presentation from Demysticon. That's awesome, man. Cool. Jacques, you're a cool dude. I love this topic Thank too. You. I would love to keep talking about it with you. So yeah, let's do it again. Come back. Sign up again, man.
You got it.
All right, man.
Much love, guys.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Cheers,
guys. Give me a hand. Come on. Hey, there it is. Sorry, Michael, I didn't give you a chance to comment on that one. You got any debrief closing thoughts on the evening tonight before we sign off? I'm going to just slowly start bringing this back in.
I thought the quality of people slayed tonight was a good night, people. Thank you all for sharing your theories with us. I think that people showed up. They were consistently hitting 60 seconds. You know, we got places. It was far.
That was interesting, wasn't it?
I think it's on fire, right?
A lot of people just dialing right in on 60 seconds. That was amazing.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. Excellent. Thank you all for having me. Awesome here.
Yeah, we can't do it without you, man. We need your... every time I look up, I just see you just deep in thought, like truly contemplating while I'm just f***ing off in the chat. So I appreciate that you're there to keep us on track.
It takes a village for sure. No worries. Yeah.
All right, everybody. Let's do it all again in a month. Thank you to everybody. It's a good village that we're cultivating. Shiloh, you gonna play us out?
Sure.
All right.
Peace out, Michael. Bye, everybody.
Night.